In the wake of the funeral, the house stood in profound silence, each corner heavy with the echoes of a life that had once flourished within its walls. Alone at the dining table, I gazed at a half-finished cup of coffee, overwhelmed by a sense of loss that surpassed anything I had ever envisioned. The burden of solitude wrapped around me, a dense and unyielding fog. As I dreaded the encroaching darkness, a soft knock echoed through the stillness of the night. With a sense of confusion and caution, I opened the door to find my son's closest friend waiting outside, his eyes brimming with an emotion I couldn't fully comprehend, an emotion that promised to alter the course of everything. As I beheld him standing there, an unusual shiver coursed through me. In the glow of the porch light, Ethan, my son's closest friend, seemed to take on a new form. He had shed the guise of the lanky teenager who once plundered our refrigerator and succumbed to slumber in the living room after marathon video game sessions. He stood with an imposing stature, shoulders wide, his expression grave, as though he had traversed the depths of existence and bore its burdens. For a brief interlude, silence enveloped us, and words eluded our lips. The night air lingered around us, thick with unspoken words. "My deepest condolences for your loss," he finally murmured, his voice richer and more resonant than I recalled. I nodded, at a loss for words. Grief has stripped away so much from my life, including the sound of my husband's laughter, the feeling of belonging, and most recently, my own voice. Ethan fidgeted uncomfortably, cradling a small jar in his hand. "I brought you something," he explained, extending his hand to reveal a modest, handmade casserole. It was a modest yet powerful gesture that broke through the fragile barrier I had built within. "Thank you," I murmured softly, stepping aside to grant him entry. The house enveloped him in an instant, as though it craved the vibrancy of life and the melody of sound. He placed the dish on the kitchen counter and turned to me, a look of anxiety etched across his features. "How are you doing?" he asked softly, his gaze searching mine in a manner that made me feel truly noticed for the first time in weeks. I offered a strained, humorless smile. My voice trembled as I uttered the word surviving. Ethan paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes, before he did something surprising. He reached out and grasped my hand, not with a fleeting touch, but with a firm, grounding grip that sent a shiver coursing through my chest. I yearned to retreat into my cocoon of despair, yet an inner force held me back. This connection was essential for me. I required a gentle nudge to acknowledge my existence once more. "Would you like me to linger for a bit?" he asked with a hint of timidity, as though wary of crossing a line. I surveyed the desolate house, my eyes lingering on the photo frames that clung to the walls, and once more, I felt the oppressive silence envelop me. Indeed, I have already mentioned that I tend to overthink it. Kindly, as we stepped into the living room, we found ourselves enveloped in a blend of warmth and wistfulness. Ethan perched on the edge of the couch while I nestled into the opposite end, draping a throw blanket over my lap for warmth. We lingered in silence for a few moments, listening to the soft hum of the refrigerator and the sporadic creaks of the aging house as it found its place. His presence felt astonishingly ordinary, serving as a bridge between the life I had lost and the uncertain future that lay ahead. Our conversation started with the mundane, touching on his experiences at the new job and the transformations the neighborhood had undergone during his time away at college. The dialogue gradually transitioned into weightier subjects. He asked about my husband and what I longed for the most. A seemingly straightforward question ignited a profound response within me. I discovered that I was discussing subjects I had long concealed, apprehensive of being overwhelmed by their burden. I spoke of the late nights filled with laughter, the tranquil mornings, and the exchanged glances that conveyed so much without uttering a single word. Ethan absorbed the words spoken, refraining from interjecting or trying to mend the situation. He listened intently, his focus so unwavering and present that it stirred a deep ache in my chest. As my words dwindled, he leaned closer and remarked, "You're permitted to miss him while still yearning for someone else." The words struck me with an unfiltered honesty that compelled me to shut my eyes momentarily, seeking a moment of grounding. I opened my eyes to find him even nearer than he had been moments ago. His visage obscured, yet his eyes shimmered with brilliance. They were devoid of pity, yet they exhibited a profound understanding. A mere whisper, a quiet assurance of solace. For a fleeting moment, I sensed I was teetering on the brink of something both terrifying and exquisite, poised to either mend my spirit or shatter it even more profoundly. My heart pounded in my chest, filled with a mix of hesitation and an unexpected readiness. A considerable stretch of time had passed. In that moment, when someone regarded me with such intensity, as if I were desired rather than discarded, my breath hitched, and I sensed the electric charge in the brief distance separating us. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I permitted myself to ponder, what if moving forward did not necessitate leaving the past behind? What if it signified the act of uncovering? Amidst the remnants of what once was, a tender and restorative presence emerges, offering solace and renewal. Ethan must have sensed the shift in my gaze, for he smiled slowly and cautiously, bearing 1,000 unspoken promises. My heart raced. Uncertainty enveloped the night, yet surprisingly, I felt a sense of calm rather than fear. I existed, ready to embrace the sensations of life once more. Ethan moved just a fraction, his leg grazing against mine, and that unexpected touch caused my breath to catch in my throat. It could have been effortlessly easy to walk away, to forge a gap and act as if the incident had never taken place. Yet I refrained. I lingered there, permitting the warmth of his skin to seep into the frigid, empty spaces inside me. His gaze searched mine with an intensity that offered me every chance to withdraw and decline. Yet, I found myself rooted in place, my heart thundering with a volume that eclipsed any words I might have uttered. Instinctively, I reached out and gently entwined my fingers with his. His hand radiated warmth, firm and slightly calloused, a stark contrast to the trembling vulnerability that coursed through me. He responded by raising his hand and intertwining his fingers with mine, a modest yet heartfelt act that tightened my throat with a surge of emotion. I had lost sight of what it meant to be touched in such a manner, not from obligation or need, but from genuine care and awareness. Ethan drew nearer, closing the gap that lingered between us. His hand moved cautiously, a hint of hesitation in his gesture, as he tucked a wayward strand of hair behind my ear. His fingertips grazed my skin, yet it sent a cascade of shivers racing down my spine. He gazed at me for what felt like an eternity. His eyes lingered, imbued with significance. "You are so gorgeous," he said, his voice roughened by a sense of wonder that teetered on the edge of reverence. It had been years since anyone had uttered it to me, and never with such raw, unfiltered honesty. Tears threatened to spill, stinging the backs of my eyes, yet I blinked them back, resolute in my refusal to let them cascade down my cheeks. Instead, I surrendered to his touch, allowing his hand to glide softly across my cheek. The outside world dissolved, taking with it the pain, the solitude, and the ceaseless stream of hollow sympathies, leaving just this moment, him and me, and the pulsating potential that hung in the air between us. He moved nearer, and I could sense the warmth of his breath brushing against my lips. A pause hung in the air, a palpable uncertainty, as though he were extending to me a last opportunity. Yet it was not something I desired. I bridged the gap by softly pressing my lips to his. The kiss commenced with a gentle hesitance, as though we both harbored a quiet fear that the other might retreat. Yet, in that moment of hesitation, as I tilted my head to forge a deeper bond, his fervent response sent my heart into a thrilling frenzy. His arms enveloped me, drawing me close, and in that moment, I experienced a profound sense of being cherished, unlike anything I had felt in ages. The kiss deepened, growing more fervent and urgent, as if we were both striving to reclaim moments that had slipped away. My hand glided up his chest, sensing the power beneath. Beneath his shirt, the tangible essence of him anchored me in ways I had yet to comprehend. He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine for any signs of remorse. Yet, what he would have unearthed was a deep-seated yearning, an unmistakable desire to reclaim the essence of life, to be desired and acknowledged once more. "Are you absolutely sure?" he asked, his voice gruff and low. I nodded, speech escaping me, and that was all the affirmation he needed. He rose and softly guided me to my feet, ushering me toward the staircase. Each step felt heavy with anticipation, and every look exchanged between us brimmed with unvoiced vows. As we stepped into my bedroom, my hands quivered, not out of fear, but from the exhilarating anticipation of what lay ahead. Ethan's touch was soft, almost sacred, as he assisted me in removing my cardigan, his fingers gliding over my skin and leaving a warmth that lingered long after. He pressed his lips to the delicate curve of my shoulder and the tender crook of my throat, lingering as though he wished to relish every inch of my being. I responded by weaving my fingers through his hair and tracing the strong contours of his back, sensing the way his muscles tightened and relaxed beneath my fingertips. As he gently laid me upon the bed, a wave of tenderness washed over me, stirring a deep ache within my heart. He lingered above me for a moment, his eyes absorbing every nuance. He murmured, "You are incredible." The enchantment in his voice swayed me to embrace the notion, if only for this fleeting evening. The remaining garments disappeared gradually and without haste, each item left behind, akin to the shedding of former lives and their accompanying sorrows. He touched me not with the awkward fervor of youth, but with a deep, tender affection that recognized and treasured every aspect of my being. Each kiss, gentle caress, and whispered word eased the hidden wounds I had harbored for an eternity. The tangible spark that coursed between us was undeniable, yet it was the profound emotional closeness that truly shattered my defenses. His gaze lingered in my eyes, unwavering and unyielding. He made me feel cherished instead of broken or cast aside. Our bodies swayed to a timeless rhythm, a slow and seductive dance that grew until it consumed us both. As I finally called out his name, a wave of relief washed over me, accompanied by a profound sense of rebirth. It was the reclamation of a fragment of my being that I had believed was gone for all time. In the aftermath, we found ourselves entwined, our breaths harmonizing, while the room enveloped us in a warm, golden stillness. Ethan's fingers glided along my arm with a gentle slowness, as though he feared the moment would slip away if he released his hold. I rested my head against his chest, attuned to the rhythmic cadence of his heartbeat resonating beneath my ear. For once, I felt unburdened by the heavy cloak of solitude. Rather, I experienced a sense of warmth, stability, and embrace. He pressed his lips gently to the crown of my head and murmured, "You are not alone anymore." I shut my eyes and let the essence of the words envelop me. In the span of a single night, Ethan illuminated the myriad forms that love can assume, and he showed me that healing, though often tangled and intricate, remains within reach. In my hours of mourning over what was gone, I had neglected to nurture the flicker of hope for what might still be discovered. Enveloped in his embrace, I came to realize that life still held the promise of unforeseen beauty, despite the weight of past sorrows. Maybe I was prepared to discover it once more. The morning light crept gently into the room, casting a soft glow upon the disheveled bedding and the residual warmth of the night that had just passed. I stirred from slumber, caught between the anticipation of solitude and the familiar embrace of loneliness that had settled into my life. Yet Ethan remained, his arm draped over me, his breath a slow and steady rhythm against my hair. For a brief moment, I permitted myself to linger in the comfort of that embrace, free from questions or uncertainty, simply experiencing the sensation. Even as I settled into the comfort of his embrace, my thoughts started to spiral. Reality, as ever, insisted on recognition. I had aged, bearing scars both seen and unseen, carrying with me a tapestry of experiences that would forever elude his understanding. What we experienced last night was truly exquisite, bordering on the sacred. Yet, could it endure beyond the delicate cocoon we had woven for ourselves, shrouded in darkness? Fear crept in slowly and stealthily, seeping into the cracks of my heart, leaving behind a cold sense of doubt. Ethan shifted closer, attuned to my unease, and gently traced his fingers along my arm. "What occupies your mind?" he murmured, his voice thick with the remnants of slumber. A wistful smile played on my lips as I traced languid patterns across his chest. How could I convey to him the depth of my terror? that, regardless of his gentle demeanor, a part of me held onto the notion that this was merely a stunning illusion destined to dissolve with the dawn. Contemplation struck me. I proceeded gently, choosing my words with great care. That final night seemed almost unreal in its perfection. Ethan grasped my chin, softly guiding my gaze to meet his eyes. There existed neither doubt nor remorse, just pure authenticity. He asserted with unwavering conviction, it was true, every single second of it. Yet uncertainties continue to cast their shadow upon me. What might others perceive if they were aware? Would they see me as desperate and forlorn? As I grasped at the ephemeral connection, yearning to soothe my solitude, I wondered if Ethan might someday awaken, gaze upon me with renewed perception, and realize he was worthy of someone younger and less intricate. I drew the blanket closer, a feeble attempt to shield my heart from the ache that lingered. Ethan propped himself up on one elbow, attuned to the subtle shift in my posture. He offered a soft smile as he pressed on. Once more, you're caught in the web of your own thoughts. In moments of sheer terror, this is how you react. I blinked, taken aback by the swiftness with which he deciphered my thoughts. Perhaps I am filled with fear, I confessed. You possess youth. The expanse of your future stretches out before you, full of possibilities. I refuse to be the error that haunts your thoughts. His expression softened as he reached out to brush my cheek. You are not a mistake, he added, gently wiping away a tear I hadn't even noticed had slipped down my cheek. You are the most courageous and stunning woman I have ever encountered. Last night was not dedicated to merely occupying an emptiness. It was a journey into the realm of authenticity. My heart yearned to trust his words. Oh, how I longed to place my faith in his words. Yet, old scars possessed an uncanny ability to murmur falsehoods during the stillness of solitude. I leaned my face into his hand, soaking in his warmth and striving to silence the murmurs of uncertainty that lingered inside me. What comes next? I murmured. When the world reawakens, and it is no longer merely you and I in this sheltered sanctuary. Ethan hesitated, lingering in silence, as though weighing his forthcoming words with care. I don't possess all the answers, he remarked, yet I grasp the depths of my emotions, and I refuse to turn my back on you. His words enveloped me like a balm, comforting yet unable to erase the lingering ache of uncertainty. As we adorned ourselves and navigated through our morning rituals, an unvoiced weight lingered in the air between us. Each casual touch of his hand, each lingering look carried with it the weight of an unspoken understanding that something significant had transpired between us. We had transcended the existence of two solitary souls in search of fleeting solace. We found ourselves bound in a manner that stirred both concern and comfort within me. The sudden knock on the door jolted us both from our thoughts. Ethan regarded me with a quiet intensity, his gaze inquiring whether I wished for him to respond. I shook my head, donned my jumper, and carefully smoothed my hair. Whoever it may be, they could bide their time. A moment was required for me to gather my thoughts and determine the extent to which I would unveil the magic of last night to the outside world. Yet, beneath the surface, I came to understand that the real struggle lay not in the judgments of others, but in confronting my own fears. Apprehension looms over the prospect of embracing vulnerability once more, of allowing hope to take root, and of entrusting my heart to forces that lie beyond my grasp. Ethan crept up from behind, encircling my waist with his arms and resting his chin gently on my shoulder. Whatever unfolds from here, he responded with a steady demeanor, we shall confront it side by side. His words were straightforward, yet they carried the profound weight of a promise I had never realized I needed so deeply. For the first time in what felt like an age, I permitted myself to embrace that promise. I permitted myself to embrace not the fantasies or perfect conclusions, but the chaotic, exquisite potential of something real and deserving of struggle. Perhaps that was sufficient. The subsequent days were challenging, yet they held a profound sense of authenticity. In those fleeting moments, uncertainty loomed large, casting shadows of doubt and prompting reflections on whether this delicate connection could endure beyond that singular night. Yet Ethan remained steadfast. As I recoiled in fear, he gently pulled me back with unwavering calm. In moments of uncertainty, He would gently remind me through quiet gestures and unwavering words that love often comes to us in unexpected forms. It may stealthily slip through the fissures of a fractured heart, taking root with a bold and beautiful tenacity, defying all expectations. We concealed our bond, relishing the fleeting instances that belonged solely to us. Shared glances from across the room, secret touches, and late-night conversations that wove together the fragmented pieces of our beings. Obstacles lay in our path, undeniably, yet we confronted them side by side, fully aware that our bond was not flawless, but it was rooted in authenticity. Ethan always regarded me as neither a burden nor a mistake. He made me feel seen, desired, and cherished, not despite my scars, but because of them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and draped the world in a warm golden hue, Ethan took my hand in his and whispered, "You saved me too." I smiled through the tears that gathered in my eyes, coming to the understanding that this could be more than merely mending old scars. It might have been a journey into the unknown, a venture into realms we had yet to envision, yet both of us yearned for something beyond our previous experiences.